I would like to start with a question. No, in this case, it's actually saying who said that it was Henry Ford who didn't believe in cars. There's some other quotes which I actually would want to share. For instance, there was one person saying that the global demand for a car would never exceed 1 million, only because there are no more drivers available on this planet. Does anyone have an idea who said that? Be brave. Nobody? It was Gottlieb Daimler. Gottlieb Daimler said that like 120 years ago, and we know today that he was entirely wrong, and I think that Mercedes wouldn't be where it is when they would make just 1 million cars. But in many ways, it's important to see and touch because we're still human beings, even though we have our digital devices around us and sensors telling about our body temperature and weight, mass, and all kind of parameters. Still, we're breathing, and we have a beating heart, and we have emotions, and we have this reptile brain, which I like referring to. And that's an important factor because we are also used to the stuff that is around us. Like Gottlieb Daimler was used to horse carriages. We're used to paying with credit cards and cash to a large extent. And for the bigger audiences, it's very, very uncommon to interact with a smartphone for the means of payments, for instance. It's something that they understand consciously, but it's not yet in their hearts. You have to feel and touch it. You have to show people what you're doing in order for them to actually embrace it and make it part of their everyday life. And that's a thing that also happened with money, and here I would want to make a little excursus to the history of the name of Yapital. It's this here, that's Yapi stone money. It's part of our name. The island of Yap is in Micronesia in the southeast Pacific, South Pacific. Small island with today just about 5,000, 7,000 people living there. They invented money as we know it today. It's man-made, you cannot easily replicate it, and society agrees that it's a means of payment. The Yapi stone money, and Yap backwards is pay, so that's pretty ingenious. The only problem that they had is they made these coins a little bit oversized. They're up to 4 meters in diameter, and one weighs up to 15 tons a piece. So they had a distinct problem with change. And to overcome that, which is so ingenious for us, for our marketing backstory, they memorized which family owns which share of that stone, and they put it into something that they call a stone money bank. Not kidding you, which is an alley, like a little walkway, and then on the sides they have these. They memorize who owns what share, which is, for me, that's a virtual currency that they invented at the same time. It's brilliant. So that's actually one step forward from paying with seashells. And then, of course, stone was a little bit too heavy, so first there were little coins made of metal, then the bills, credit cards emerged as a means to avoid paying for your lunch when you are not sober enough to remember where your wallet is. I mean, that's where Diners Club is coming from, as the first credit card on this planet. And now we are seeing that we're moving, actually symbolized through the smartphone here, that there are new ways to interact and to manage transactions. And I think that's a very important factor, which when we're looking at the banking industry, is something that is to a large degree overlooked internationally. They're all thinking very much in their own categories, or many do, but we need to be open and see what happens there when we unleash money. And in that sense, for our team to motivate ourselves, we say we want to do with money what iTunes did with music. So let that resonate a little bit. For us, it doesn't matter how the industry has been a couple of years back. What we want is that consumers can have their transactions in a way that's natural for them, intuitive for them, and wherever they are and however they do it. I'm not saying that we're there yet, but that is what's driving us. So we want to do with money what iTunes did with music.
We're going to show you some YouTube video here of a 1-year-old who is happily and expertly playing with the iPad, apparently knowing just what to do. Then she tried a real magazine, brick and mortar magazine. She's trying to pinch and move and swipe the real magazine. Doesn't work quite the same way.
Well, it's just an image that we've probably all seen. We're talking about audiences and target groups. I often hear from more traditional businesses that it's the young people, the more tech-savvy gadget guys, which are described to be young men at the age of like 28 to 38, who are like the innovative audience that we should all look at. But I think that is entirely wrong. First of all, I would fit that audience pretty much, and I'm a gadget person, but I'm so fucking old. Excuse my language here, but I'm so damn old because I did not grow up with a smartphone. It added value to my life, I think I'm actually not quite sure, 98? I think that's where, 97 maybe, that's when I started to use a GSM phone, and then I had like a P910 Sony Ericsson some 8 years ago, I think. It was a pretty dysfunctional device, actually. So this is very young. I did not grow up with it. What is that difference? The difference is that for me, it's something that I learned consciously, like I learned to write in school. It's not something that I just observe, and that's part of my life. So for us, it's very important to look at how this future audience that is growing up now, how that is interacting with basically any product, and obviously also with payment. And then, of course, we see the trend of smartphone sales. I actually don't have to dig too much into the numbers, we all know them. But there's also another trend, which is equally interesting, and that's the way how it becomes part of our body and our neural system. Because when you lose your wallet, or you forget your wallet at home, you will realize that roughly an hour later. When you forget your keys, you will probably realize that 20 minutes later. When you forget your smartphone, you will feel this very uneasy, ticklish sensation after 2 minutes, and you say, oh shit, where's my smartphone? So we have a much deeper connection with that device than with, for instance, a wallet. That is something that is actually a very interesting fact for us, and shows us that the theory about these mobile devices gaining more and more power obviously is right, and it's evidenced by the cold turkey effect that it has when you lose your phone. On the other side, we see that development. On the other side, we also see that people still like to buy from people. And you can buy from people by going to the store. Europe is a little bit behind the US in that sense. In Asia, there are markets where actually a country like Germany, which is behind Luxembourg, would be super advanced when it comes to e-commerce. But still, most transactions happen in store, or at least people would like to buy in store, but they're not always in the position to buy in store because it's not made easy for them. E-commerce is more convenient. So the question is, and that is for us the full reason why we need a cross-channel or omni-channel experience also for transactions, is that we need to add that convenience and give it back to people. And that again is a little bit looping back into what I said about iTunes. So what we've been doing is, for the last pretty much exactly 3 years, is to build a payments ecosystem that covers all aspects of daily life. It starts with something that we every day we need, which is peer-to-peer money transfer, real-time, made very easy from the app. It's covering the e-commerce aspect just how we know it. It's email address and password. It includes the mobile checkout, but in a way that's very, very broad, which allows you to pay invoices, pay directly from marketing channels and buy stuff from an advert, for instance. And I think that combination, and then we have a MasterCard, not to forget that combination of these means of payment on these possibilities unleashes a lot of potential. We had cases, for instance, which I thought was a brilliant example, where someone said, I sent you some money through Yapital because I know you're in a store in Sweden. Can you please bring me some snuff? That's the tobacco that the Swedes like to put under their upper lip. And the person said, oh, that's fantastic, and then paid in the store in Sweden with the Yapital MasterCard because the money was there instantly and could be used that instant. That's a case that had actually been presented to us. One of the cases where people actually call and say, hey, this was great. I think it's a perfect example for a cross-channel experience. So that's how people deal with money and transactions in real life. And this is how Yapital feels like. If we had some sound.
Every now and then, something comes along that fits so perfectly. It becomes part of how we do things, and part of who we are. We believe it's all about keeping life simple, like knowing when to spend and when to save. It's finding that amazing deal and taking home the prize, whatever it may be. It's doing things at your convenience to make the most of your time, and understanding that a shared passion is the best part of a friendship. It's contributing with a simple press of a button, and never hearing, I'll pay you later, again. It's accepting that a good night out means sometimes being a little bad, and knowing that even when you can't make it home, a simple gesture always can. It's a moment of glory and a very proud father. It's avoiding not having enough cash in your pocket to put the next round on the table. It's helping someone close to you who may be far away, and making sure you always find your way home. It's learning to let go and welcoming something new. As we move from one era to the next, with fast, simple, and secure ways to pay, Yapital is the global solution for your transactions, now and in the future. Evolve with Yapital and create your free account today.
I'm not sure if I remember that correctly, but I think we paid an extra bonus to the marketing guys doing this because they managed to get even a kitten into it. The work we've been putting into Yapital for the past 3 years or so was to a large degree to build the platform from scratch, because we believe that the approach that others have to use white label credit card containers and build mobile payment solutions based on archaic credit card scheme IT is not a wise idea, so we decided not to do that, just build everything from scratch. That's the first thing we did. The second thing we did was to integrate with a lot of partners. We have a very symbiotic approach. One example I would want to point out, that's our strategic alliance with Atos Worldline, because in many countries in Europe, the card transactions that are done through payment terminals are running through software which is called Poseidon. It's like in Germany, like 90% or more going through that software. And we are now with Yapital integrated into that software. And through that, it's very easy for payment network operators to make Yapital happen at the POS in the existing infrastructure. So you don't need to put some stickers there which people can peel off for where it doesn't match the checkout. you do not have to put up another terminal or smart device or whatever it is. It's the exact same existing infrastructure without implementation fees, and I think that is a factor for breakthrough. That's very important, and I'm extremely happy that we secured some degree of exclusivity there for a while, which I think makes a huge difference for Yapital in the marketplace. Based on that, and also some other partnerships with a company called POS Partner, for instance, that has a software plugin for the POS system to use the screen of existing devices, signature pads or terminals, to show the QR code. We managed to convince a number of large merchants in several countries to sign up with Yapital and roll it out. What I'm personally extremely happy about is that we have a good traction in the food retail industry in Germany, because that's where we go every day, or maybe every other day. A lot of merchants we go to less frequently, like shoes. But for instance, we have some shoe dealers as customers, which we value a lot. But that doesn't change the fact that I don't go to shoe stores every second day. So food retail also, like the backend infrastructure for new emergent payment systems or other high frequency merchants, is absolutely crucial for market breakthrough. So it's the combination of those two which is necessary to make it attractive for consumers to sign up. So I think we've been quite good there, and I'm happy that there's more merchants to be announced within the very near future, and also some new technologies as well. Like I just announced today that we're trying the fingerprint payment on the phones, being a little bit skeptical about the security though. And the main aim, as I said, is to be closer to the shopping impulse. And the shopping impulse is when I go to the store, no matter whether it's physical or digital, and I want to buy something. It's not natural that I want to compare prices or go some other place because it's more convenient. I want to go into the store to buy my TV, and ideally that is what I get. And that doesn't mean that I couldn't buy a TV through the e-commerce channel in a physical store. And it doesn't mean that I couldn't buy a TV online and pick it up in a physical store. So we see that the lines are actually getting more blurry there. 40% of the Americans would buy more when we just move the payment impulse closer to the payment methods closer to the shopping impulse. And I think it's probably the same figure across Europe, because nobody wants to worry about payments. Nobody wants to be bothered with the process of paying or getting the good. Everyone wants to get it. That's when we get happy. Now, of course, there's some things which we've already done, and some things which are coming. For instance, we added something which may seem like a tiny thing, but it's actually very, very strong for merchants, which is to ask our consumers to add their loyalty cards. And when a merchant accepts that loyalty card, we give them the number with the transaction. Just think about the big piles. Actually, I'm one of those old school people having like this brick in my pocket, with all the people who have loyalty cards for stores and leave them at home. And then the store doesn't gain anything, it just costs a lot of money. And we overcome that by giving the number of the card together with the payment transaction. And then there's some other future things like potentially couponing or very, very likely digital receipt storage in the transaction history, which is just making a purchasing transaction so much more convenient. That's it for the introduction. And as I said, seeing is believing. So the company is called Yapital. We're the guys who are making interacting with doing your transactions so much easier. And you can find out how that works and how it feels at our booth where we have a showcase. Thank you very much.